This video is going to be a look at some film of Jadeveon Clowney. The Ravens brought him in as a potential free agent, I believe Tuesday afternoon. And for what is out there still available, it's probably a smart move to explore now. Justin Houston signed with the Panthers last week. Kyle Van Noy sounds like he must want more money than the Ravens are willing to spend. Other guys that are out there, JPP, Carlos Dunlap, the longer guys that are with maybe more tread on their tires that would cost less. Clowney, where does he fit on the maximum rewards in terms of production and minimum cost quotient or balance, at least? At 30 years old, coming off a 2-sack season, he might be the cheapest option for his age. He might also be a mirage to show Kyle Van Noy, hey, the Ravens, we're willing to move on and bring someone else in. Personally, I think Van Noy is probably the perfect fit with the Tyus Bowser situation coming to mind. None of the other remaining outside linebackers had a 5-game stretch like Van Noy did to finish the 2022 regular season, where he had 5 sacks, 16 tackles, 6 TFLs, and 5 quarterback hits, all in the last 5 games of the regular season. He may present the best option for me personally, but I wanted to take a look at some film of Clowney. I had some already before needing to go download some from 2022 yesterday. And see how it compares to what we had last year in JPP and Justin Houston, and what the Ravens might other options might be. Dunlap, potentially JPP, and although no one's talked about him at all, maybe he's even retired. One thing I noticed from the film, first of all, he played quite well against the Ravens in 2021. Thought he played with a lot of force against the Ravens. He seemed to be in attack mode often and had an impact. I thought. He's often the last guy in his stance, which there's some good things to potentially be said about that, and there's some bad things. Good things are, I think he's looking at people. I think he's looking at offensive linemen, looking at the quarterback's eyes, seeing what the quarterback is looking at. I think he's evaluating things that we as fans have no knowledge of because he's got the film, the end zone angle film, and he's looking at keys to potentially tell him what the play might be. Now, other people will say it's a bad thing for him to be in his stance late. It indicates that he's not ready to go. Well, if the offense lines up early and he's in his stance for a long period of time, some would say, that has a negative impact on your conditioning, your ability to explode. Myles Garrett, similarly, is sometimes getting in a stance late, but not as bad. Anyway, I tend to think it's more of a good thing. He's a veteran who's looking for keys. The numbers against the Ravens were very good in 2021. 1.5 sacks, 7 tackles, 3 quarterback hits in the two games against the Ravens in 2021. Of course, those were back-to-back games, and I'm only showing you the second of which here, a little bit of film. He did finish 2021 with 9 sacks, and including 4 in the last 2 games. Didn't do much in 2022, for real. I mean, against the Ravens, he didn't do much. 2 total tackles in 45 snaps across the 2 games in Week 7 and Week 15. And then overall, only had 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits overall in 2022. I hate to really quote stats, but I felt like it was needed to transition from the 2021 film to the 2022, at least in terms of the Ravens against the Bucs. He played almost 500 snaps in 2022, so a lot of snaps for the minimal impact that he had, at least getting to the quarterback. I guess I should put it that way. And you compare that to his previous season in 2021, he played over 700 snaps when he had 19 quarterback hits and 9 sacks. Which Clowney are you going to get if you sign him now? Look, the reason why he's available is because, at a low cost, I should say, the reason why he's available presumably at a low cost is because of how many games he has missed. So what I did was I looked at his stats from 2022, and I picked a game when it seemed as if he had some impact, and it was the Tampa Bay game. I think he had 4 tackles, 1 quarterback hit, a half a sack, and I think he had a pass defense. So I'm going to show you a lot of film rather than basing it just on the stats, which I did for the first couple of minutes of this video, so forgive me for that. I usually don't like to do that. Spent too much time talking about the stats. But I went back and watched this Bucs game. I ended up watching every defensive snap from the end zone angle only, pretty much, and then saving 20 plays. And that's too much. That's too many plays to show in a video. So I'm going to let this loop here. This is the Browns' home win in overtime in Week 12. I think it was 23-17. Like I said, 4 tackles, I think 3 solo, 1 TFL, 1 quarterback hit, half a sack, played 53 snaps. I feel like this is going to be at least statistically, the best look for him, as opposed to showing you, all 20 plays. I got 20 plays, like I said. I think it's too much. So he was going against, Tristan Wirfs, one of the highest rated pass blocking right tackles in professional football. I think Wirfs only allowed 2 sacks and 2 separate hurries in 587 pass plays last year. So it speaks, to how effective he is, and we certainly saw that last year when the Ravens went down to Tampa Bay. I thought overall Clowney looked a half beat off in his timing against Wirfs, but I think Wirfs obviously is a factor there. And then you're trying to get to Tom Brady too, who gets rid of the ball quick. So that's why this is a game that I chose, because it's a high standard in terms of who he was going against at right tackle and the quarterback that he was facing. I did think he had some impact. Thought he had trouble with Wirfs' style. He couldn't really get his moves timed up. His hand swipes seemed to be slightly off timing, and Wirfs' balance, his ability to maintain his base and incredible balance, I thought, gave Clowney trouble. Additionally, with changing his rhythm. When I say his, I mean Wirfs. Changing his rhythm in terms of putting his hand out there, letting Clowney think he was trying to attack, and then circling it or pulling it back to only reveal his actual move or his actual intention. I think Clowney notices things pre-snap, especially on run plays, and I can't prove it enough to you other than watching some of the 2021 film against the Ravens and this game against the Bucs. I think he notices the amount of pressure that an offensive tackle or a tight end is putting on his hand, whether in terms of whether he's going to fire out, on a run block or pass set, and that's kind of, across the board one of the things you can look at, among others. I think sometimes he's looking at the width of the stance, which is, you should be the same. He's a smart guy. I don't think he gets credit for that. I think he gets credit for just being a tremendous athlete. And don't get me wrong, is certainly, athletic guy out there. Like I said, 30 years of age. Where are you getting him on the, amount of return you're going to get versus how much money you're going to pay for? Because, it seems as if Kyle Van Noy is a guy that maybe you'll get more return for, a more varied return. Kyle Van Noy can drop out in pass coverage, really good against the run, and some would say he's not a great pass rusher, but he did have 5 sacks in the last 5 regular season games last year. I feel like with Van Noy, it's going to be higher cost in order to get that higher return, more balanced return, more varied return. Jadeveon Clowney, I think, is widely recognized as being a really good run stopper, a guy who's good against the run. I thought there were some times, even in the 2021 film against the Ravens, where he's playing a little bit high. I'm not sure what the return is on him getting lined up so late, because to me, the only reason why, that will be, I shouldn't say allowed, encouraged, is to let him use his eyes and use his intelligence and see what the quarterback's looking at, see how the O-line is communicating, and then use that with his keys and formational tendencies and scouting stuff to determine, okay, I know what this play is. I think he's a lot smarter than he gets credit for. I think he's a veteran who can come in and have an impact. I don't think the snaps are going to be there for him in terms of 40-plus snaps per game. Then again, I didn't think that about JPP either, but until the Ravens got everybody back, JPP was playing a lot of snaps. I do compare him to JPP, to be honest with you. I think JPP seemed to be a little bit better at realizing he was not going to get to the quarterback and then getting his long arms up to block passes, to knock down passes, and still have an impact on the game. A batted pass is either incomplete most of the time, or in some cases can be deflected and intercepted. I'm a big fan of JPP. I would be interested in what the Ravens front office thinks of bringing him back versus signing Jadeveon Clowney. And then the other end of the spectrum, or further up the scale in terms of cost, would be your Kyle Van Noy. Carlos Dunlap is another guy that's interesting to me. I would have thought the Ravens would have brought him in because his film from the Chiefs last year was pretty good, and I think he played 550 snaps, something like that. So it's not like Dunlap wasn't active. and I think he's generally a guy that plays 16, 17 games a season. You guys let me know what you thought of the film. I did let it run through twice against the Bucks. I thought maybe I should have let it run through a third time. Didn't break down individual plays. I wanted to give you guys a chance to look at it yourself, make your own conclusions. I think if the price is right, Clowney would be a good option on an incentive-laden deal. I wouldn't want to bring him in for a base salary. I guess similar to what they did with Melvin Gordon from a running back standpoint. An incentive-laden deal, and maybe Kyle Van Noy wasn't down for that, and maybe that's why he's not signed yet. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this content, this quick look at Jadeveon Clowney film, please consider grabbing a link to this video and sharing it on social media to help this content get more reach.